Ahead of the opening gavel tomorrow, and amidst the turmoil at the Democratic National Committee, the Clinton campaign will stump in battleground North Carolina, which is where I'm going to find my colleague, Kristen Welker. And Kristen, correct me if I'm wrong, is it a solo or is it a ticket stop tomorrow in North Carolina?
Well, as far as we know, Chuck, this is going to be a stop only with Secretary Clinton. She's going to talk to the VFW here, and she's also going to hold an organizing event. We are getting reaction from the Clinton campaign, Chuck, at this hour to DWS and these developments. So let me read you a little bit of the official Clinton campaign statement, which says, quote, "There's simply no one better at taking the fight to Republicans than Debbie, which is why I am glad that she has agreed to serve as honorary chair of my campaign's 50-state program to gain ground and elect Democrats in every part of the country, and will continue to serve as a surrogate for my campaign nationally in Florida and in other key states." Translation, Chuck, if you read between the lines there, that's essentially an acknowledgement that there was a deal struck here, that the Clinton campaign saying, hey, you can stay on as honorary chair, but you need to step down because this is becoming a big distraction. Based on conversations with Democratic officials, there had obviously been a lot of controversy swirling around Debbie Wasserman Schultz. President Obama, Secretary Clinton had some real concerns about that. And the development of these emails essentially gave them a fireable offense. And that is why we are seeing this development today. They didn't want anything to be overshadowing this convention. What they want to be focused on is what you were just talking to Jeff Weaver about, party unity. And of course, this new ticket, Secretary Clinton and Tim Kaine. They feel as though the rollout yesterday of Tim Kaine went very well, and they want to try to continue that momentum, Chuck.
Well, very interesting decision, though, by the Clinton campaign to essentially employ her, because then that is only going to make some Sanders people go, aha, this is her. She owes Debbie something, and that's why it's an interesting decision. It may only feed some conspiracy theories anyway. Kristen Welker, thanks very much. We'll see you soon right here in your hometown of Philadelphia. And we've got three more folks here with us right now who are, some of them are Philly natives. Washington Post national political reporter and NBC News contributor Robert Costa. NBC's Casey Hunt. She always claims whatever city we're in is a hometown somehow. I don't know. And Hallie Jackson, I think, is claiming some Pennsylvania ties.
Well, Bob and I went to high school together, believe it or not.
All right.
Just outside Philadelphia.
Casey, I want to start with that. I have to say, when I saw that statement just now, my initial reaction was, oh, so she's taking care of somebody who took care of her. Like, that's how somebody who has gone down this road, who believes that somehow the DNC snatched this from Sanders, that's how they're going to interpret that. I don't know if that was the best call.
I think that this has been, in many ways, for the Clinton campaign and for Democrats, unnecessary the way they've handled this. They've repeatedly done small things like this that you point out that have just made Sanders supporters throw their hands up in frustration and say, look, this system is rigged. Here's yet another example. And I think, it's the Clinton campaign trying to make sure that they can have it both ways a little bit here on this issue.
Well, I do think there is a personal friendship. Remember, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Robert, was one of Hillary Clinton's most staunchest backers back in the heat of the Obama-Clinton primary, so there may be just some loyalty there.
I think there's a lot of loyalty you see even with the recent rollout of Senator Kaine as the running mate. There's been a warmth between the Clinton campaign and the Democratic National Committee. But just walking around Philadelphia here talking to delegates in the last hour, there's a sense that they're ripping the Band-Aid off, that something had to happen, a reckoning of sorts.
Tomorrow could have been really ugly if she were still in this role.
And you would have seen the attacks coming, not just from the Sanders supporters, but from every Republican, including Donald Trump, who already is trying to portray this as some sort of divide, right, or mirror image of what's happening.
I think he put out a tweet going, hey, Reince is tough and smart.
Told you Reince is the guy, better than Debbie Wasserman Schultz, right?
Yeah, nothing probably makes Reince happier than to see that now. This is superficial, though, this change. Yeah. There's really all the work that the Sanders people wanted to make, all the change, they've already done it. Yeah. And they've made some progress on the rules and the process and the platform. They've made their progress. This really is more symbolic.
They really got almost everything they wanted from the Democratic Party platform. They didn't win on TPP, partly because in from my reporting would say, because
President
the
Obama.
president,
Yeah, the president weighed in on
is
TPP.
supportive of
Exactly.
TPP. So that's a little bit of a tricky
Still
one.
his party for another 6 months.
Right. But I think you were talking about this a little bit with Jeff earlier. The reality is Debbie Wasserman Schultz was going to be leaving. The Clinton campaign had already effectively taken over the DNC. And she, in many ways, when Bernie made this his demand, saying she absolutely must go, in many ways, that made it harder for the Clinton campaign to be publicly capitulating on that until they had this fireable offense. And the reality is these emails played right into everything the Sanders supporters have been saying all the way
It just reinforced everything.
You know what's going to set the tone is Senator Sanders himself.
Yeah.
What does he say on that debate stage? Does he try to take control of the convention a la Pat Buchanan in 1992? Does he really make a definitive stand against the party? He sets the tone even if his supporters are angry here in the streets of Philadelphia.
And ironically, it didn't just play into the hands of what Bernie Sanders and his supporters have been saying all along, Casey, like you say. It plays into what Donald Trump has been saying all along, that the system is rigged and that, as he has said, Bernie is not getting essentially a fair shake or a fair deal. So this is reinforcing not only the worst perceptions on the Democratic side, but on the Republican side as well.
By the way, this steps on the Tim Kaine rollout a little bit.
It does.
Yesterday was a good day for the ticket, and Tim, they did a good job. You would normally want that you would want one more day out of it. They're not getting it.
And that was unfolding actually in front of us as,
yes, it was.
I was down there in Miami. They didn't really make a big deal of the fact that Debbie Wasserman Schultz was going to be speaking. They almost didn't really say anything about it. And then as she was getting on the airport, onto an airplane to come here about the same time we were, that was as this was all unfolding. And of course, she's been underground since.
Well, I want to play a clip. It was over, it was about 6 weeks ago, when I asked her multiple times whether she would step down for the good of the party. Here it is.
Will you say definitively
that's what we should all be focused on?
You're not leaving this job before the end of November, period?
No, I am going to continue to be focused on making sure that we can elect a Democratic president.
One of my producers isn't fully good. You plan on being the chair of the DNC through the election in November?
I am planning on continuing to focus all the way through the election to the end of my term on making sure that we can elect Democrats up and down the ballot,
so you're not
especially and including the President of the United States.
What was interesting there, you did get a sense that she knew she might not finish.
I think that you did. And look, the reality is Debbie Wasserman Schultz, somebody who's very, very committed to the party, who's been very successful at particularly the fundraising aspect of this. But she also, she saw the writing on the wall, but she wasn't going to let it go, I think, at the end of the day without fighting back.
She personalized this a little bit.
Yes.
And I think that might have created some unforced errors at the DNC.
And my colleagues at the Washington Post have been reporting for the last few hours that she was reluctant to do this, that Debbie Wasserman Schultz did not want to go, that it took the White House and perhaps even the president himself to put his hand on the scale a little bit to make this happen.
It was so coordinated, Hallie, when it finally happened. You saw boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
President Obama, Hillary Clinton, the job. This is, for something that happened fast, it also seemed to be thought through.
And it was planned and it was sort of executed with ninja-like precision, if you will. And it's different from what we have seen, frankly, in some of these instances of crisis control on the Republican side. But I will tell you this, the GOP almost gleeful about this. They're holding a briefing right now down south in Philly. And the communications director, Sean Spicer, is telling one of our colleagues, Alex Jaffe, absolute chaos is going to reign at the convention, saying, hey, listen, for all the problems that everybody talked about last week in Cleveland, it's going to be way worse in Philadelphia. This is the reaction right now.
Right. Well, I don't know if Bernie Sanders is going to do a Ted Cruz speech, though.
I don't know.
He already endorsed her.
He already endorsed her, and he already doubled down again today. I don't think it's going to be a Ted Cruz speech.
No. He's going to take longer, I bet, than his allotted time. As someone who has covered Bernie Sanders.
Well, I will say this. I think he's not happy that he's got a 9 o'clock slot instead of a 10 o'clock slot.
We'll be taking notes of how many times has he actually mentioned Secretary Clinton.
All right. Albert Costa, Hallie Jackson, Casey Hunt. I think you guys are sticking around for a little bit longer because I'm not going to be hot here alone. We'll have more on today's breaking news. Debbie Wasserman Schultz has announced she is stepping down as DNC chair following the convention, which ends on Thursday. And in the wake of the news, can Hillary Clinton bring the Democratic Party together in the city of brotherly love? Not a lot of love today. I'll have reaction to the DNC email leak and more from Clinton campaign senior strategist Joel Benenson next. We're coming to you live from Philadelphia. Is there a better backdrop in America than Independence Hall?